everyone, we are the group 5. I am Aiko Diaz together with my group mates, Tiffany Drilon and John Ralph Diliera. And we will be discussing to you about intelligence and perceiving the world. First, I will be discussing what is intelligence. So, what is intelligence? Intelligence is a person's ability to learn, to remember, to acquire knowledge, to reason out, to make judgments, and also to adapt to a changing environment. So in order for us to understand what is intelligence, we should learn or we should know what are the things that are considered in intelligence. So, intelligence consists of a set of cognitive skills or abilities, including abstract thinking and reasoning, problem solving, ability to understand complex ideas, ability to acquire knowledge, ability to learn from experience, and adapt to a changing environment. So ito yung mga cognitive skills or abilities na belong mismo sa intelligence. May mga ability to learn from experience. Sabi nga nila, experience is the best teacher. So, marami tayong natututunan or na-acquire na knowledge once na-experience natin yung isang bagay. And also, problem solving. Hindi lahat ng tao ay may kakayahang mag-solve ng problem accurately or mag-solve ng problem na may mga good decision. So, ang intelligence ay focused also to memory, working memory, spatial ability, and mathematical ability. So, meron tayong mga test para ma-measure ang iba't ibang klaseng intelligence ng tao. So, ano yung mga test na ginagamit? First is IQ or Intelligence Quotient. Common na to dahil parati natin tong naririnig or talagang ito yung basihan para matest yung isang intelligence ng isang tao. So, intelligence quotient or IQ, a measure of a person's reasoning ability. So, mathematical formula siya na defined as the ratio of mental age. Mental age is yung kakayahan ng utak natin or yung mental age ng utak natin, which is kung kaya mong gawin yung age na pang 25, yung mga bagay na kaya na pang 25 years old, 30 years old, like that. So, to chronological age, which is yung age mismo natin, and multiplied by 100. So, for example, your mental age is 25. So, kaya mong gawin yung mga bagay na usually is pang 25 years old or yung mental capacity is for 25 years old. And you are only 20. So, 25 divided by 20, so times 100 equals to 125. Tama ba? So, 125 yung IQ mo once na kaya mo yung mental age or mental age mo ay 25 and yung chronological age mo ay 20. So, ito times mo sa 100 is yun yung IQ mo. So, next, let's go to next one. Aptitude test. Aptitude tests a person's capacity to learn. Predict how well you will perform at something in the future. So, ito yung capacity natin, ma-measure dito, yung capacity ng isang tao na matuto. Ito usually sa mga exam para sa course mo. Di ba meron tayong NCAE na nimi-measure kung saan yung abilities mo or skills mo na babagay sa next na course na kukunin mo. And also sa mga job kung talaga bang saan ka dapat na job mapupunta depende sa aptitude test na result ng aptitude test na nakuha mo. So ito yung makikita dito, ma-measure dito yung capacity ng isang tao na matuto. Next is achievement test. measure how well you did. So, dito is common na rin kasi parati tayo nakakaroon ng mga achievement test. And dito na measure kung how well you did. Kung ano na ba yung mga natutunan mo, kung may natutunan ka ba, katulad ng NAT exam. So, National Achievement Test, diba? Nakakaroon tayo ng National Achievement Test ng high school tayo para ma-measure kung may mga natutunan ba yung mga bata or wala at doon nabibase yung ranking mismo ng mga schools. Next is Cognitive Ability Test or CAT. Measure a person's intelligence and general mental ability. So, dito na measure yung intelligence ng isang tao at general mental ability. So, marami mga psychologists or researchers na hindi na ginagamit or nire-reject nila yung word na IQ test kasi more on reasoning ability lang siya. So, dito sa cognitive ability test, niti-test yung general mental ability ng isang tao. Next, we will talk about Raymond Cattell and John Horn Theory of Fluid and Crystallized Intelligence. So, meron silang, si Raymond Cattell ay nag-propose ng isang theory which is Fluid and Crystallized Intelligence, and ipropose nito sa kanyang estudyante na si John Horn. So, tinawag siyang Cattell and Horn Fluid and Crystallized Intelligence. So, ano ba yung Fluid and Crystallized Intelligence? So, crystallized intelligence, sum of all learned knowledge that you've developed over time. So, dito na papasok yung lahat ng mga natutunan mo, simula bata ka pa hanggang sa paglaki mo, or then specific age mo. So, based on facts and rooted in experiences. So, based on facts siya katulad ng pagbasa mo ng mga libro, or mga natutunan mo sa school, and based or rooted din siya sa mga experiences mo, yung mga natutunan mo, habang yung mga natutunan mo sa mga past experiences mo. Next, ito ay learn. Sabi ko nga, na-acquire mo yung mga knowledge through learning. So, as we age and accumulate new knowledge and understanding, it becomes stronger. So, di ba, habang lumalaki tayo or habang tumatanda tayo, nag-acquire tayo ng knowledge at nag-learn tayo ng mga knowledge, is mas lalong nag-strong yung foundation ng intelligence natin as marami tayong natutunan once na nag-aaral tayo ng mabuti or nag-acquire pa tayo ng mga knowledge. So, yun yung crystallized intelligence. Sum of all learned knowledge. Next is fluid intelligence. So, kabaliktarin ito siya ng crystallized intelligence. It is hardwired into your brain and cannot be changed. So, andun na talaga siya mismo sa atin at hindi siya mababago. It involves being able to think and reason abstractly and solve problems. So, ang fluid intelligence is more on nakafocus talaga siya sa pag-reason out natin abstractly at pag-solve natin ng mga problems. So, yung crystallized intelligence is learned, while fluid intelligence is genetic. So, inherited siya or genetic na talaga siya, which is andun na sa mismo sa taong yun or nasa atin na talaga yung pag-reason abstractly or yung pag-reason out or yung pag-solve ng mga problems. So, opposite siya doon sa crystallized intelligence, which is nalilern natin yung mga knowledge or nalilern natin yung mga bagay through experience and facts. Dito naman is talagang genetic na siya, noon pa is nasa atin na. Next is tends to decline during adulthood. Nakakaroon ng parang nagde-decrease yung fluid intelligence ng tao once na tumatanda na. Dahil ang mga nagdo-dominant doon is yung crystallized intelligence, yung natutunan natin through experiences or yung mga natutunan through facts. Pero yung fluid intelligence natin is nag-decrease dahil tumatanda na rin tayo. Ganon, may maraming mga bagay na pwedeng maka-apekto dun sa fluid intelligence natin. So, ito sila. So, dito, ang intelligence daw, sinasabi nila, maraming mga theorists or maraming mga researcher, psychologists na nagsasabi na ang intelligence is single and general mental capacity or ability ng isang tao, more on general. And ang iba naman ay hindi, dahil nakafocus ito siya sa iba't ibang talents, skills, or abilities ng tao. So, wala talagang specific na definition kung ano talagang intelligence. So, dito pag-uusapan natin yung mga theories of intelligence in order for us to determine or para malaman natin kung ano ba talagang intelligence. So, theories nga, di ba? So, let's start with Charles Spearman General Intelligence. So, ito si Charles Spearman. Isa siyang British psychologist, 1863 to 1945. So, si Charles Spearman ay gumamit ng factor analysis para ma-examine yung number of mental aptitude test. So, ginamit niya, isa siya sa mga gumamit ng technique na factor analysis para ma-examine yung mental aptitude test ng tao. So, dahil sa factor analysis na yun is nagkaroon siya ng conclusion na yung tao ay G-factor. Tinawag din yung theory na G-factor, ibig sabihin general factor or general intelligence, na sinasabi niya dito na yung isang tao, once na mataas yung nakuha niya sa isang, for example, verbal test, ang ibig sabihin nun ay mataas din yung makukuha niya or same din yung makukuha niyang result doon sa another test. At ang sinasabi niya rin, kapag nag-fail yung isang tao sa isang test, ibig sabihin din nun ay mag-fail din siya sa isa pang test. So, yung ginawa niya is ni-generalize niya yung isang result sa pangkalahatan. So, he concluded that intelligence is general cognitive ability that could be measured and numerically expressed. So, isahan lang. Kung ano result niya dito sa isa, ganun din ang magiging result niya sa iba pang mga test. Kung nag-fail siya, fail din siya sa iba. Kung nag-succeed siya, successful din siya sa iba. So, ganun yung concept niya or yung perspectives niya about intelligence. So, may tao na nag-oppose doon, si Louis L. Thorstone or Louis L. Thorstone's Primary Mental Abilities. So, ito siya. Louis L. Thorstone focused on 7 different primary mental abilities. So, sinabi niya na nag-focus siya dito sa 7 different primary mental abilities niya. Sabi niya is, may post yung sinabi ni Charles na hindi naman nababased yung intelligence ng tao sa isang resulta lamang, kundi may iba't ibang klaseng mga abilities ang tao na pwedeng ibig sabihin na may iba't ibang ability yung tao. Hindi lang nakafocus sa isang intelligence lamang or isang specific ability or skills. So, dito, meron siyang 7, which is verbal comprehension, word fluency, numerical ability, spatial visualization, associative memory, perceptual speed, and reasoning. So, alam natin yung verbal comprehension, word fluency, numerical ability, spatial visualization is yung capacity ng isang tao na mag-isip ng iba't ibang klaseng or intelligence na mismo sa isang pattern, mga puzzles, o magaling siya sa mga pag-puzzle, sa mga abstract or visual, focus siya sa pag-visualization. And associative memory, ang associative memory, ito yung gina-associate ng isang tao, yung isang bagay sa isa pang tao. For example, this one, yellow SpongeBob. So, kapag may kilala kang tao na may favorite na yellow or SpongeBob, so every time na makikita mo tong yellow SpongeBob na to, is maalala mo yung isang tao. Ibig sabihin, i-associate mo yung tao na yun sa specific na bagay. And another one is aroma or yung pabango. May alam ka na tao na ang pabango niya, for example, is Victoria's Secret. So, always ginagamit yon. So, tuwing na may Victoria's Secret, ang naalala mo yung specific na tao na yon. So, ni-associate mo yung aroma na yon dun sa tao na yon. So, yun yung associative memory. Next is perceptual speed. So, dito sa perceptual speed, ito yung ability ng isang tao na mag-compare ng mga letters, numbers, objects, pictures, or patterns sa specific time or parang mabilis siya maka-memorize ng mga iba't ibang klaseng ng mga katulad ng mga letters, mga numbers. So, yun ang perceptual speed. Next is reasoning. Okay, alam natin kung ano yung reasoning. Next is we have Robert Sternberg's hierarchic theory of intelligence. So, si Robert Sternberg, ito siya, ay sinasabi niya na intelligence as mental activity directed towards purposive adaptation to selection and shaping of real-world environments relevant to one's life. So, niya-post niya din sinabi na G-factor ni Charles Spearman at sinabi niya dito na isang tao, sabi niya dito, yung intelligence ng tao is nakafocus sa adaptation, selection, or pag-shape, or yung sa isang environment, creativity. So, meron siyang tatlo, which are analytical, creative, and practical. So, sa analytical, ito yung kakayahan ng isang tao mag-analyze, mag-critic, mag-judge, mag-compare and contrast, mag-evaluate at mag-assess. So, ito yung doon nakapasok yung intelligence na analytical. Kakayahan ng tao sa analytical. Next is creative. So, ang tao is creative, like ga-create siya or mga nag-invent. So, karamihan sa mga inventor or mga nakaka-discover ay mga creative. And imagine if, may galing mag-imagine, suppose that, and predict. So, yung maraming imagination sa utak, yung magaling mag-create or pagiging creativity, yung mga ganon. So, dito papasok yung sa creative. Next is practical. Mag-apply ng mga nag-learn niya ng knowledge, ginagamit niya, use, put into practice, katulad ng sinabi ko, na-acquire niya yung knowledge, then gina-practice niya. Next, implement, employ, and render practical. So, itong analytical, creative, and practical, sinasabi dito ni Robert Sternberg na yung intelligence ng tao or intelligence, hindi lang siya nakafocus sa isang bagay, kundi pwedeng sa analytical, creative, or practical. Next, we have Howard Gardner's theory of multiple intelligence. Dito is maraming nakakaalam or marami na kayong alam about Howard Gardner's theory of multiple intelligence. So, ito siya. So, si Howard Gardner ay isa siyang psychologist and i-propose niya yung numerical expressions of human intelligence are not full and accurate depiction of people's abilities. So, sabi niya, inupos niya rin yung sinabi ni Charles Spearman na about numerical expression. Kumaga parang ano yung resulta sa isang test is ganun na rin yung resulta sa iba. No, sabi niya dito na yung numerical expression ng isang tao na yun or yung resulta sa isang test na yun ay hindi yun ang basihan sa ability ng isang tao. So, na-describe siya ng 9 distinct intelligence that are based on skills and abilities that are valued within different cultures. So, nagkaroon siya ng 9 distinct intelligence na pwede ang mga tao na yun is pwedeng magaling dito sa isang bagay na to, pwede rin siya dito, pwede siyang mahina dito, pero magaling siya sa isang bagay. So, yun ang tingin niya dito sa Howard Gardner's theory of multiple intelligence. So, ano ba yun? 9 types of intelligence according to Howard Gardner's. We have naturalist intelligence or nature smart. Ito yung mga taong magaling sa nature or yung mga farmer, ganyan, yung mga mahilig magtanim, gardener, mahilig sa mga flowers, sa mga plants, more about nature. So, tinatawag silang nature smart. Next is musical intelligence or music smart. Ito yung mga magaling kumanta, magaling about musics or instruments. So, dito, ang sinasabi niya dito, ang tao is pwede magaling sa naturalist intelligence or nature smart. Next is musical intelligence, magagaling sa mga musics or music smart. So, dito yung mga singer or magaling sa mga instruments, pianist, so, guitarist, ganun. Next is logical mathematical intelligence or number reasoning smart. Dito sa logical mathematical intelligence, dito yung mga tao magagaling sa mga logics. So, kahit balik-balik tarin mo pa kung ano sabihin mong logic is talagang maintindihan nila. Mathematical intelligence, magaling sa math, diba? Hindi naman lahat ng tao magaling sa math and logic. Lalo na kapag talagang ayaw mo yung math, talagang hindi mo talaga makukuha yan kung wala kang passion doon. So, next is existentialist intelligence. Yung dito, yung mga taong nakaka-focus sa existence ng isang tao. So, katulad ng mga philosophers, which is magaling talaga sila sa mga about existence ng tao. Or kahit ano pa mga theorists or mga facts na related sa existence ng tao. So, tinatawag silang existential intelligence. Next is interpersonal intelligence or people smart. Ito yung mga tao magaling makipag-socialize sa ibang tao. So, kahit kanino pa man sila tapat, saan sila mapunta, or ano pa mang environment na yon, is nakaka-adapt sila agad at nakikipag-socialize sila agad. So, meron silang ability na makipag-socialize sa mga tao. So, pwede dito yung mapupunta yung mga taong social workers, yung mga trabaho na kung saan is makikipag-usap ka sa mga tao, makikipag-deal ka sa mga tao. So, interpersonal intelligence. At saka also, pag sa people smart, is yung naiintindihan mo yung feelings ng ibang tao. So, nire-respeto mo yun, nagiging sensitive ka sa mga feelings ng ibang tao. So, kapag ganun is, meron kang interpersonal intelligence. Next is intrapersonal intelligence. Baliktad, intrapersonal, which is self-smart. Naiintindihan mo yung sarili mo, alam mo anong kakayahan mo, alam mo yung weakness mo, alam mo yung mga strengths mo. So, talks about yourself. So, alam mo about kung ano yung meron sa sarili mo. Next is bodily kinesthetic intelligence, which is body smart. Yung kakayahan ng tao na mag-control ng mga body niya. Katulad ng mga dancer, yan, mga ballet, yung mga mahilig magsayaw, ganun. So, mga sports, or mga sports related, katulad ng mga badminton, volleyball, which is yung ginagamitan talaga ng lakas ng katawan or coordination lahat ng katawan. So, siya talaga na bodily kinesthetic intelligence. Next is linguistic intelligence or word smart, yung maraming alam sa mga vocabulary, alam nila lahat iba't ibang klaseng mga language, katulad ni Dr. Jose Rizal, which is alam niya talaga yung iba't ibang klaseng mga language, Japanese, Korean, ano po yun? Related doon. So, more on about linguistic intelligence or about word smart. Like spatial intelligence or picture smart. Katulad na sinabi ko kanina, dito yung mga tao magaling sa mga abstract or visual. Mga puzzle, yung makarecognize ano yung difference nito, yung mga connection, more on visualization or picture smart. So, ito yung mga 9 types of intelligence. We have spatial, naturalist. Next is musical, logical, mathematical, existentialist, interpersonal, bodily kinesthetic, linguistic, intrapersonal. So, spatial visualizing. So, spatial we have visualizing. So, spatial we have visualizing the world in 3D. So, nakikita mo talaga. So, matalino ka about doon. Naturalist, yung understanding living things and reading nature. Musical, discerning sounds, their pitch, tone, rhythm, and timbre. Next is logical, mathematical, quantifying things, making hypotheses, and proving them. So, yung magagaling sa mga research paper also, dito sa logical, mathematical. Next is existential, tackling the questions of why we live and why we die. So, dito yung mga philosophers. Sensing people's feelings and motives, ito interpersonal, pagiging sensitive. Next is body kinesthetic, coordinating your mind with your body. So, magaling sumayaw or mga sports. Next, linguistic, finding the right words to express what you mean. So, malawak yung vocabulary ng isang tao at maraming alam na mga words. And language, intrapersonal, understanding yourself, what you feel, and what you want. And next is, tapos na. So, yun ang 9 intelligence na tinatawag ni Gardner, or multiple intelligence. So, that's all. History of intelligence, yung mga test na intelligence, katulad ng mga superior, genius, and gifted. So, itatakal yan ni John Raptiliera, and also emotional intelligence also, which is contradicted siya or nag-uupo siya dito sa intelligence. So, dito, I will stop with this and let us continue with John Raptiliera and Tiffany Drilon. So that's all. Thank you, and I hope that you will learn more habang ni-discuss ni John Abdiliara and Tiffany Drilon yung another topic namin. So, bye and see you soon. Bye!
I'm going to discuss the history of intelligence testing. So, Alfred Binet was a French psychologist best remembered for developing the first widely used intelligence test. The test originated after the French government commissioned Binet to develop an instrument that could identify school kids that needed remedial studies, because the government at that time had passed laws requiring that all French children should attend school. So it was important to find a way to identify children who would need specialized assistance. So, together with his collaborator, Theodore Simon, they created the Binet-Simon intelligence scale. So, Theodore Simon, he began to develop set of questions that focused on things that are not taught in school, such as attention, memory, and problem-solving skills. Using this question, Binet determined which ones served as the best predictor of school success. So, he quickly, he quickly realized that some children were able to answer more advanced questions that other older children were generally able to answer, while other children of the same age were only able to answer questions that younger children could typically answer. So, by this observation, Binet suggested the concept of mental age, or a measure of intelligence based on the average of abilities of children of a certain age group. Binet himself did not believe about his psychometric instruments could be used to measure a single permanent inborn level of intelligence. He also emphasized the limitation of the test, suggesting that intelligence is influenced by a number of factors. Intelligence changes over time and it is not permanent. Okay? So, furthermore, intelligence can only be compared among children with similar backgrounds. Always remember that. After the development of the Binet-Simon scale, the test was soon brought to the United States, where it generated considerable interest. So, Stanford University psychologist named Louis Sterman took Binet's original test and standardized it using a sample of American participants. This adapted test first published in 1916 and was called the Stanford-Binet Intelligence Scale, and soon it became the standard intelligence in the US. So, this Stanford-Binet scale, it used a single number known as the intelligence quotient, or what we know today as IQ. It is used to represent an individual's score on the test. This score was calculated by dividing the test taker's mental age by their chronological age. So, for example, if a child that has a mental age of 12 and a chronological age of 10, that child would have an IQ of 120. So the Stanford-Binet scale, it remained popular assessment tool until today, diba? It remained until today despite going through a number of revisions over the year since it was made. Now we have the next development in the history of intelligence testing, the creation of a new measurement instrument, and by American psychologist David Wechsler. Much like Binet, Wechsler believed that intelligence involved a number of different mental abilities. So, describing intelligence, he described intelligence as the globally capacity of a person to act purposely, think rationally, and to deal efficiently with his environment. He published his new intelligence test, known as the Wechsler Adult Intelligence Scale, or the WISE, in the year 1955, because he was dissatisfied with Stanford Binet intelligence scale. So, Wechsler developed two different tests specifically for children. The first one was the Wechsler Intelligence Scale for Children, or the WISC, and the second one was the Wechsler Preschool and Preliminary Scale of Intelligence, or the WPPSI. So, rather than score the test based on chronological age and mental age, as was the case with the original Stanford Binet scale, the WISE is scored by comparing the taker's scores to the score of others in the same group. The average score is fixed at 100, with two-thirds of score lying in the normal range between 85 and 115. So, this scoring method has become the standard technique in intelligence testing and is also used in modern revision of the Stanford Binet test. So, now we're done to the history of intelligence testing. Let's proceed to emotional intelligence. The ability to express and control our emotions are important, but so is our ability to understand, interpret, and respond to the emotion of others. So, imagine a world where you couldn't understand why a friend was feeling sad or when a coworker is angry. So, psychologists refer to emotional intelligence, at some experts even suggest that it can be more important than IQ. Lastly, the term emotional intelligence refers to the ability to perceive, control, and evaluate emotions. So, I think my report is over.
Hello guys, this is Tiffany Chamberlain of BSP3A, and this is the continuation of our report, which is Intelligence and Perceiving the World. So Aiko and Ralph have already explained what intelligence is. So my topic would be focusing on how we perceive the world around us, how we interpret the things that we have seen, felt, tasted, or touched. So, to be specific, my topic is about perception. So, what is perception? Perception is a method that is used by the brain to interpret whatever is sensed by the body. That being said, it means that perception is dependent to our sensory organs, because it interprets whatever is seen, felt, touched, tasted by our own body. So, perception varies from one person to another person. An example of which is that I like spaghetti, but you may not like spaghetti. Another is two friends were walking outside, and the friend exclaimed that look at the cloud, it looks like a dog. But his friend argued and said, no, that cloud looks like a cat. So they argued. So there is a variation between how an individual perceives what he has sensed. But there is always a exemption to the rule, an exemption to the rule. So what is that? Because as how unique as perception can be, there are still similarities that exist on how people perceive the world. So, anong tinutukoy ko dito? Ibig sabihin nun, kung halimbawa nakikita ko to siya as a pen, nakikita nyo rin to siya as a pen. Ganon. So, ang tawag sa similarities na to ay perceptual constancy. Bakit nagkakaroon ng similarities? Because there is a constant element na nag-e-exist kaya nagkakaroon ng similarity. So, what are those elements? First is the size constancy. The ability to perceive an object according to its actual size regardless of the distance. So, halimbawa kapag ang peso coin, alam natin na maliit lang siya. So, regardless sa layo niya sa atin or lapit nitong peso coin sa atin, hindi siya lumalaki o lumiliit. Stable yung size na napaperceive ng eyes natin sa peso coin. Gets? Yan. So, the second one is shape constancy. Sa peso coin pa rin tayo. The shape of peso coin is below circle. So, regardless ng nearness or farness ng peso coin sa'yo, napaperceive mo pa rin ito siya as circle. Below pa din yung peso coin for you, diba? The third is brightness constancy. Brightness constancy is the ability to perceive the brightness of an object as the same even if the light condition changes. For example, peso coin pa rin tayo. Peso coin is silver and it shines bright So, kapag tinapat mo siya sa maliwanag, bright pa din yung color ng coin. Pag tinapat mo siya sa madilim, bright pa din. So, walang nag-change doon sa brightness ng isang bagay regardless kung maliwanag or madilim pa ang isang lugar. Yun ang perceptual constancy. So, let's proceed with the types of perception. There are 7 types of perception, which are first, the Gestalt principles perception. Second, depth perception. Third, perceptual illusions. Fourth, sound perception. Time perception. Person perception. And lastly, the extrasensory perception. So, what is the Gestalt principles of perception? So, Gestalt principles of perception is first figure ground perception, the tendency to perceive objects and figures as existing on a background. So, sa isang image, meron tayong figure and meron tayong background. So, dito sa principle nito, ng Gestalt perception, ang sinasabi dito, yung focus ng eyes natin tend to shift from the main figure to the background. So, nagkakaroon ng image yung background sa eyes natin. So, para maintindihan nyo, ito ang ating example. What do you see first? Kung ang nakita nyo first ay vase, then probably the background of the vase is black. Diba? But if you saw the two faces facing each other, most probably or dapat ang background nyo is yung color white. But look at the image. So, look carefully. So, habang tumatagal, biglang nagkakaroon ng image yung background. Kung ang unang nakita ninyo ay yung vase, na unti-unti nyo nakikita na nagkakaroon ng forma yung black background. And unti rin nyo na nakikita yung faces facing each other. So, ganun din ang nangyayari kapag ang una mong nakita ay yung two faces facing each other. The more that you look at it, the more na lumalabas yung shape or form ng background mo. So, ito yung tinutukoy sa figure ground perception. Galing sa main figure, nag-shift yung focus ng eyes natin sa background. So, nag-create or nagkakaroon ng shape yung background. Yun. Nagkakaroon siya ng parang double image. Then, the second principle is the proximity. The tendency to perceive objects that are close to each other as part of the same group. So, dito sa proximity na to, ang sinasabi dito ay kung sino yung magkakalapit, sila yung magkakagrupo. Parang halimbawa sa isang essay. Essay is composed of 3 or more paragraphs, di ba? And yung paragraphs na yun, nagdi-distinguish mo siya dahil sa spaces niya. May space, di ba? So, hindi siya magkakadikit. So, kung sino yung magkasama sa first paragraph, sila yung magkagrupo. Kung sino yung magkasama sa second paragraph, sila yung magkagrupo. Halimbawa, sa groupings, kapag sinabi ng teacher mo na kung sino yung katabi mo, siya na yung kagrupo mo, ibig sabihin nun, kung sino yung malapit sa'yo, yun na yung kagrupo mo, yung katabi mo na yung kagrupo mo. Ganon siya. So, let's proceed with the third principle. The similarity. The tendency to perceive things that look similar to each other as a part of a group. So, itong similarity na to, ibig sabihin nun, similar. Kung sino yung magkakapareha, sila ang magkagrupo. Okay, so, i-distinguish muna natin ang proximity ha. Proximity is kung sino yung magkakalapit, as in close to each other, sila yung magkagrupo. Itong similarity naman, kung sino yung magkakapareha, sino yung similar to each other, sila ang magkagrupo. So, let's take a look of an example. So, ito. Yan sa image na yan. Diba? Kung regardless of their color, kasi white ba siya or red ba siya, as long as circle siya, silang magkagrupo. Ganon din, the same principle is applied to the square. Regardless of its color, regardless kung red ba siya or white siya, as long as square sila, sila ang magkakasama. Another example is yan. Another example. So, soccer players. So, di ba sa soccer meron tayong two teams. Dito sa image na ito, nakikita natin yung mga nakapula at saka nakaputi. So, applying the law of similarity, di ba ang lawak-lawak ng soccer field? Tapos, makikita natin during the game, ang magkasama is yung black at saka yung color, naka-color red at saka naka-white, di ba? Kasi kailangan bantayan mo yung opponent mo. So, hindi pwedeng sumama ka lang dun sa kagrupo mo. Dapat samahan mo yung kalaban mo para mabantayan mo siya. So, applying the law of proximity, kahit na magkakalayo yung mga nakakulay puti sa kapwa niya nakaputi, at mga nakakulay pula sa kapwa niya nakapula, alam natin na ang magkagrupo, ang magka-teammates ay yung mga nakakulay pula. Ang ka-teammate ng nakakulay pula ay yung kapwa niya nakakulay pula. Kasi parehas silang nakapula. And parehas sila nang nire-represent. And yung mga kasama ang kagrupo ng mga nakaputi, yung kapwa nila nakaputi. So, ganun yung law of similarity. Kung sino yung magkakapareha, sila ang magkagrupo. Gets? Okay, let's proceed. Closure, the tendency to complete figures which are not complete. Yan. Diba? Hindi clear yung image. Hindi complete yung image, pero we perceive it as a dolphin. Alam natin na dolphin to. So, yan yung law of closure. We are able to perceive things and alam natin kung ano yun despite na hindi kompleto yung image na nakikita natin. The fifth law or principle of Gestalt is continuity, to perceive things as simple as possible with a continuous pattern rather than with a complex, broken-up pattern. So, anong ibig sabihin nito? Mas pinipili ng perception natin yung mga bagay na connected, tuloy-tuloy, at saka simple pattern kaysa sa mga broken, and complex pattern. Sige, tingnan natin tong example na to. Yan. So, as we can see, meron tayong two colors, the red and tsaka black. Pero, meron din tayong two directions, across and horizontal. Pero, if we are going to apply the law of continuity, ang karugtong nitong bilog na to, ang karugtong yan is pag ganito. Kasi continuous siya. Bakit? Diba? Continuous siya and simple siya. Unlike kapag ganito ang ginawa natin, unlike na kapag ganito, broken siya and complex yung pattern na nabubuo niya. So, applying the law of continuity from here to there and this. So, diba? Simple lang yung pattern na nabuo and continuous siya. So, yun yung law of continuity. Another is, let's proceed to the fifth, connectedness. Elements which are connected to one another are perceived as a single group. So, ito. Yan. Kung sino yung napagdugtong, regardless kung parehas ba sila ng kulay, magkalapit ba sila sa isa't isa, parehas ba sila ng size, as long as nadugtong sila, they are connected. Yun, isahan sila, they are considered as one group. Magkasama sila, basta nakakonect. Ganon. Parang sa flowchart, regardless of the size or shape or color of our flowchart, as long as may arrow na nagko-connect doon, they are connected. They are on the same group. Okay, so much for the Gestalt principles of perception. Let's proceed to the second perception, which is the depth perception. What is depth perception? It is the capability to see the world in 3 dimensions. There are 2 cues in perceiving the world. So, the first cue is monocular cue. Cue for perceiving the world on one eye. Ibig sabihin ng mono, isang eye lang gagamitin natin to perceive the world. The second one is binocular. Binocular means 2 eyes. 2 eyes ang gagamitin natin to perceive the world. So, what are the 6 types of monocular perception? First is the linear perspective. The tendency for a parallel lines to appear to converge on each other. So, halimbawa, naglalakad ka. So, di ba may dalawang side talaga ang road, the left side and the right side. So, kunwari, ang haba-haba ng road na yun na tinatahak mo. Tapos, kung saan man yung maabot ng mata mo, dun sa pinakadulo na yun, yung dalawang side ng road na yun, which is the left and the right, parang at the end, nag-merge sila at naging isa na lang yung way. Nagkikreate siya ng illusion ng ganon. The second one is the relative size, a perception that occurs when a certain object certain size appears to be small and is assumed to be far. Kung halimbawa, yung friend mo na super tangkad, and pagkakita mo sa kanya parang, uy, ang liit naman niya. Tapos, so, we really assume or perceive it na malayo yung friend natin sa atin, so, kaya maliit siya tingnan. Pag sa malayo, maliit. Pero pag sa malipitan, malaki. Ganon. The third one is the overlap. The assumption that an object blocks other objects and appear to be closer to the viewer. So, ito siya parang yung isang object, ang tinatabunan niya yung ibang object, pero hindi naman talaga. Nag-create lang siya ng illusion. So, tingnan natin ito. Ito ang linear perspective. So, may dalawang sides yung real road, the left and the right. Pero doon sa pinakadulo kung saan man abutin ng mata natin, parang nag-merge yung dalawang side ng railroad. So, yan yung sinasabi natin sa linear perspective. Dito naman sa relative size. Diba ang laki-laki ng Eiffel Tower, pero dyan sa image na yan, ang liit ng Eiffel Tower. That is because Eiffel Tower is very far from that man on the picture. So, the Eiffel Tower tends to appear smaller than its regular size, than its original size. And this is the overlap. So, apples have the same sizes, but this apple on front seems to be bigger than the other apples, and that is because of the illusion that it creates. So the fourth type of monocular perception is the aerial perspective, the tendency of an object to appear hazy because of an atmosphere. So, natry nyo na ba yung maglakad kayo, tapos parang may nakita kayong bundok. Tapos yung bundok na yun na malayo sa inyo is parang kulay blue, and medyo hazy siya, or parang may fogs, ganun. Pero pag pinuntahan nyo yung bundok na yun, hindi talaga siya kulay blue. So, yun yung aerial perspective. May picture ako niyan. So, next is texture gradient. Texture surfaces appear to become smaller in a distance. Sabihin no, yung surface ng isang bagay tends to appear smaller kapag nasa malayo. Yun. So, the third one is the motion parallax. Closer objects tend to move quickly than the objects which are far away. Gets understandable naman, diba? So, ito ang aerial perspective. Ito naman ang texture gradient. So, let's proceed with the types of binocular perception. Again, binocular means the usage of two eyes to perceive the things around us. So, the convergence, the rotation of the two eye socket to focus on one subject. Ilagay nyo tong index finger ninyo sa gitna ng eyes ninyo. Tapos mag-focus kayo. Tignan nyo lang yung index finger nyo. Diba parang nagdo-double image yung index finger nyo, tapos parang yung eyes nyo nagko-cross or parang naduduling kayo. So, yun yung convergence. Another is binocular disparity. The difference in two images between the two eyes. Ilapit nyo ulit yung index finger ninyo sa eyes ninyo, tapos close your left eye. Tapos tandaan nyo yung position ng index finger ninyo nang naka-close ang left eye nyo, tapos close your right eye. Diba, nag-change ng position yung index finger ninyo pagka-close ninyo ng right eye. So, yun yung binocular disparity. Merong difference between the things that is perceived by both of our eyes. Iba yung na-perceive ng left eye natin, iba rin yung na-perceive ng right eye natin. So, yun yung binocular disparity. Yes, iisa lang yung object or image na tinitingnan ng both eyes, pero iba yung na-perceive nila. Nag-change dahil sa position. Yan. So, itong nangyari sa eyes natin during convergence. The third type of perception is perceptual illusions. Perceptual illusions, it means that is perceived but does not correspond to reality. Ibig sabihin, yung object na nakikita natin is real. Andun talaga siya. Pero ang illusion is yung perception na natin. Yun yung nagiging illusion, hindi yung object. So, there are two types of perceptual illusions, which are the visual illusions and the illusions of motions. So, merong common types or infamous examples of visual illusions, which are Hermann Grid, Muller-Lyer, and the moon illusion. And moon illusion, ito na yung, di ba yung moons, sometimes they appear during the daylight, and moons during daylight tend to appear smaller than the moons during night. Yan yung moon illusion. So, ito ang Hermann Grid. So, tingnan nyo yung line sa kulay puti, tas yung parang sa intersection. Diba parang merong gray blob dyan. Pero tingnan nyo yung gray blob. Directly look at the gray blob. Diba nawawala sila bigla? Because those gray blobs are not existing. They are just illusions created by our eyes to adjust to the high contrasting colors of the white and black and white on that image. So, para maka-adjust yung eyes natin, yun. Nag-create siya ng illusion ng gray blob. Yun. Kaya, pag tinititigan natin ng directly, yung gray blob, nawawala siya kasi hindi naman talaga siya existing. Wala talaga siya sa image. Illusion lang siya na create ng eyes natin. And this is the Muller-Lyer illusion. So, di ba dito parang mas mahaba yung nasa baba kaysa nasa taas. Pero, kung titignan mo na mabuti or susukatin mo, Parehas lang sila ng size dalawa. Parehas lang ng length. So, let's proceed with the movement illusion. So, meron tayong 3 types of movement illusion. First is the autokinetic effect, the tendency to perceive a stationary point of light as moving in a dark room. So, ito siya, parang yung mga images, gumagalaw-galaw-galaw siya. And next is the stroboscopic motion. Motion pictures which is done by rapid progression of images. So, ito na yung sa animation. Diba? Mag-drawing ka from one page tapos iraran mo. Halimbawa, kapag nag-drawing ka sa notebook, sa dulo ng notebook mo. Halimbawa, dito sa dulo ng notebook mo, mag-drawing ka dyan, tapos sunod dito, tapos ganituhin mo, tapos parang yung mga image na gidraw mo, parang nagagalaw na kung sila. So, yun yung stroboscopic motion. The third one is the Phi phenomenon, a result of on-off switching of lights. So, ito na yung sa mga LED lights and billboards na nakikita natin. So, itong example ng autokinetic effect. So, para siyang animated, pero image lang talaga yan siya, na parang gumagalaw. The fourth perception is the sound perception. Sound perception is perceiving distance and direction of sound. Ibig sabihin nito, kapag pakiramdam natin na clear and loud yung voice nun, ibig sabihin yung source of that sound is close sa atin. Whereas, kapag mahina or hindi clear yung sound na naririnig natin, it implies that the source of that sound is far from us. Ganun. And next is the time perception. It's based on our experience and conditioning which gives cues. Halimbawa sa mga Muslims, kapag malapit na ang 3 p.m., nagpe-prepare na yan sila for their prayer time. And pagpatak ng 3 p.m., automatically, they will start to pray because yun yung time perception nila. Yun yung nakakondition sa kanila na every 3 p.m. is their prayer time. Another is every 5 p.m. Every 5 p.m. parang nakakaramdam tayo ng fatigue. Ganon, parang gusto na natin umuwi kasi napagod na tayo. So, yun yung parang body clock natin na kapag dating ng 5 p.m., napapagod na tayo. So, yun yung time perception. And next is person perception. Refers to the different mental processes that we use to form impressions for other people. Meaning, ito na yung mga impressions natin sa ibang tao. Itong person perception is affected by our moods, stereotypes na naririnig natin from other people, opinions na naririnig natin sa ibang tao, and other factors. So, ibig sabihin, kapag ang isang tao, they give off a vibes na parang hindi natin sila gusto or bago natin sila nakilala, may narinig na tayo ng mga sabi-sabi towards them. So, nagkakaroon tayo ng perception, ibang perception towards them. So, halimbawa, kapag yung isang tao hindi natin kakilala, pero yung friend natin, panay ang kwento about sa kanya. Halimbawa, sabi niya na, alam mo siya, sobrang talino niya, sobrang galing-galing niya. So, the moment na we met that person, or kahit hindi pa natin siya na-meet, may feeling na tayo, or pressure na tayo na ito magaling ito, ito matalino, ito siya. Ganon. And lastly is extrasensory perception. Perceptions that are not based input from our sensory receptors. So, hindi na siya nakabase sa sensory organs natin. Extrasensory perception has no proof pa rin talaga na nag-e-exist siya, pero that is included on perception. So, types of extrasensory perception first is the precognition. Precognition is the foretelling of future events. It could be seen in dreams such as impending accidents or deaths. Halimbawa nito is yung isang episode sa KMJS which they have featured a man na he can see the future daw, and whatever he has seen on his dreams, he posts it on his Facebook account, and nangyayari talaga yung mga events na yun. So, yun yung precognition. Yung we are able to tell what will happen in the future by our dreams. Next is clairvoyance. Is the ability to perceive objects or events that do not directly stimulate your sense organs. So, itong clairvoyance na to, ito siya is purely gut feeling. Nararamdaman mo lang, kutob lang. So, halimbawa yung parents. So, ang parents, they have the tendency na maka-feel ng pangamba towards their children kapag feeling nila yung children nila, yung anak nila, nasa panganib. So, nararamdaman nila yun. So, yun yung clairvoyance. Third is telepathy, ability to send message through mind. So, understandable naman. Fourth is the psychokinesis or telekinesis. So, ito siya is the ability to affect physical world through mind. So, pwede mo raw mapagalaw isang gamit through your mind only. Yun ang telekinesis. So, thank you. That is all for our report, and I hope that you have understand from our reports, from the things that we have explained. So, kung may tanong kayo about intelligence or perception, you can private message us or comment on the comment section below and ask your questions. And we will also be sending you PDF copy of our report so that you will have a copy. Yun lang. Thank you and God bless us all.